The Cold Omaha Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Procedurally Generated. I'm Henry Bell, and joining me today are Brandon Bowling and returning guest Daniel Starkey. This week we're going to be covering Gabe Newell's Reddit AMA, Awesome Games Done Quick's record-breaking donations, the Nintendo Switch conference, and a whole lot more. But first, we're going to get things started with what we've been playing this week. First off, though, Starkey, how have you been?
I've been pretty good. It's been busy. Been doing a lot of stuff.
I can imagine. There's been a lot of events and stuff going on. You've been playing around with any of that? Anything fun you can talk about?
Yeah. So I've played the Switch a bit. It's good. I have the same complaint that pretty much everybody else does who's played it so far, which is that the joystick on the right side is like the weirdest placement because it's in the middle.
I've been hearing that.
Yeah, it's if you're just holding it like on the side, it's just really awkward.
Yeah, that's what I heard actually. The same things.
And also,
I heard.
Isn't it like because my understanding is that like with some of the co-op stuff you can do, you like break the controller down and you're supposed to pass them out, and they'd be similar to like having two Wiimotes turned on their sides. But isn't the analog stick on that second controller like centered?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like,
okay,
like,
it's when it's separated that it's weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I didn't really notice it initially because when I was looking at pictures, they just looked like they were in polar opposite positions. But after I took a closer look, I started noticing that. And then some of the comments from people getting first impressions were basically what you both said.
How does
Another thing I've noted...
Go ahead, Brandon.
Another thing I wanted to note, too, is like, I heard that the Switch, the positioning of how you hold it varies from, like, amazing, this works, to, like, oh my god, this is horrible. Like, I heard the horizontal is, like, way too small. You can't play for extended periods of time, but if you hold it like you would a Wiimote, the controls are actually pretty solid.
Well, how do you feel about that, Starkey?
Like nunchuck position.
I would agree. I'm starting to develop a slight nerve issue in my left hand, which could be a problem down the line.
That's no good.
But if I like pull my hand in too close, like if my grip is too small, then my hands start cramping up and kind of like locking into place.
Oh, yeah. I kind of had that with the original 3DS, I think it was.
Yeah.
With the placement of the left analog stick being way too tight because I have pretty big hands, I would get real bad thumb cramps. Obviously not nerve damage, but I know what you mean, how bad those like tight grip controllers can be.
It's interesting, yeah. I have a similar issue though. It's not with games. When I like do modeling or something, when I build model kits and stuff, a lot of times I'll be doing trimming and polishing, and my fingers will just lock up.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, like any position that you need to trim or finish is usually the worst possible position. So
without getting too deep into the Switch, because we'll certainly be talking about it more when we get to our news section, I'm just curious, can you confirm for me, though, there are, 4 modes you can use the Switch controller in, or am I mistaken here? You can have them broken apart completely, you can have one in each hand, you can have the single half of it in 2 hands, like turned on its side, right. You can have the block controller, and then I saw one that looked like kind of like an Xbox controller, grips on the side as well.
Yeah, but that's like an accessory.
Oh, gotcha. So that doesn't ship. I thought that shipped with the unit.
I don't think so.
Gotcha. That's kind of a bummer. Yeah, and we'll be getting into accessories that you'll be purchasing for this console soon enough. But
which I think is like the biggest knock, because there's a lot that feels necessary to like really maximize your gameplay on it.
Definitely. Well, we'll get into that, but without any further ado, let's jump into what we've been playing this week. And it's going to be a good one, I think, because it's been a little while since the last time we got to talk about what we've been playing, since we've been doing Game of the Year and stuff for the last few weeks. So I would like to talk about a game that I actually picked up during the Steam Winter Sale and have been playing quite a bit of and really enjoying, which is quite surprising to me. And that is Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. So this is that it's the Japanese made Western style RPG. And it's very interesting. It kind of plays, it feels kind of Dark Souls-y crossed with I don't know, maybe Dragon Age a little bit. But the aesthetic and like a lot of the like leveling and stuff are very traditional Japanese feeling, which I really like. I don't know. It's a game that I've tried to play it a couple times, and it's a game that I find is really hard to get into. I think the opening, not just the opening, but throughout the game, you're often feeling like you don't really know where you're supposed to go next, and quests aren't always super clear about your objectives. But it almost doesn't matter because the gameplay is really good. Like, that one of the big features of this game that a lot of people may not know about is the ability to climb on massive enemies and monstrous enemies. So you can be like hanging off the back of a troll's neck while you're like jamming a dagger into his head. Like, you can climb all up different enemy types to damage certain body parts for extra bonuses and stuff. It's very cool. I actually really, really, really enjoy the combat in the game, and the spell and ability lineup is pretty diverse as well. Just out of curiosity, have either of you guys played any Dragon's Dogma?
No, but I've heard of it. I've heard a lot about it, actually.
Starkey?
I have not, no.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, I highly recommend checking it out. I feel like it's kind of a shame it didn't get more attention. This is the game, too, you guys, just as a refresher, this is the game that uses the pawn system for your, like, party. And so you like, go online, and characters upload. When you make a character, you get to create one pawn. Brandon, you're my pawn. And, and that character gets uploaded to the internet every time you rest at an inn. And so then anytime you go to these pawn stones, I think they're called, you're able to add 2 pawns from online to your to your party, which is really cool because as you level, you're switching out different people's pawns at various stages of their progression with different armor types and all kinds of fun stuff. And the pawns have an AI learning system where if, say, I take Brandon, my pawn, on a quest, and then someone rents him, if you will, next time they go to the pawn station or whatever, he will, the NPC version of him will give them tips on the quest and be like, oh, I've done this quest before and stuff like that. Huh. And they'll say, like, there's goblins ahead, or like, beware the cliffside, or that kind of stuff, which is really, it's a nice touch. It's very cool. Overall, I'd say it's not a game for everyone, but like definitely a solid one for fans of, I think, maybe a little bit slower paced RPGs that have a larger sense of scale and that are more gameplay focused. I'd recommend this definitely for fans of something like Dark Souls that are looking for a little bit more of an RPG slant to it.
I definitely like my Dark Souls.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult, let me tell you. Very difficult. So that rolls into it too. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma, I would recommend it. I think you can get it for like $40 for the best version on Steam right now, so check it out. Brandon, you played some games this week, didn't you?
Yeah, I finally got around to playing games I wanted to play. The last couple of weeks of December, I was scrambling to just get enough gameplay in of a lot of the new releases, like Final Fantasy and things of that nature, so I didn't really get a chance to enjoy myself. So I kind of cracked down, played, and got back into Watch Dogs 2, which I think is like the most notoriously underrated game of 2016. 2016, I guess you could say, was a bit of a rough year. I think that a lot of things happened which kind of shook the community.
Definitely. Lots of high highs and low lows. Yeah,
so a lot of people were being very particular about how they're spending their money and looking back at past games. And Watch Dogs is definitely a damaged franchise from its first one, but I got to say, Ubisoft blew it out of the water. It's been pretty rare where an open world game doesn't seem generic, and I actually enjoy kind of running around for extended periods of time.
Yeah, honestly, the fact that before the show, you casually were like, I really like this one area. It's kind of like a foresty, like hillside area, and there's like trees at the top of the hill in this. And I'm like, oh, you mean the hillside leading into Silicon Valley? And I've never been to California or anything, but the game is that memorable. The landmarks are that good looking that like someone can vaguely describe something. And you're like, oh yeah, I do remember that location in an open world game, which is saying something.
Yeah, it's the best way to describe the nature of the map for this is that it's subtly expansive in the sense that like you have expansive games like Just Cause 3 and Just Cause 2, for example, which are huge maps, you know?
Yeah.
And then they tend to be really empty. More so Just Cause 3 than 2, because 2 has a load of random things you can do.
Definitely. I definitely agree.
But this one seems to like have that perfect like combination of open space but content to fill the space. And I love that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
even,
Like the variety of side missions and stuff, even some of the stuff that seems to be like randomly generated is really like compelling. Like you don't even have to do the story for ages in that game.
yeah, I spent most of the time messing around. Like there's randomly generated like money stores where you can just like either grab, $20 or $5,000 or so. And my joy is just like running around and just annoying the hell out of the NPCs. And then once they've just about had it, I just kind of sneak in and get what I need to get and get out. And
Nice.
it's just delightfully satisfying. And it's kind of funny too, because you don't really get points to level up doing that, but you do get money. So I'm getting like really good with like some basic with some basic tools that they give you at the start of the game. I just haven't upgraded anyway. I'm just having way too much fun exploring just the map. Like this game actually got me to take selfies and actually enjoy it.
That is pretty cool. Daniel, did you get a chance to play this at all? Have you played any Watch Dogs 2?
No, I was kind of turned off by Watch Dogs the first, and I've been hesitant to pick it back up, but I keep hearing good things.
Well, yes, exactly as I said. I mean, it was definitely a damaged IP with the first installment of the new IP.
I agree, but I think with lowered expectations, it's a shockingly good sequel to such a frustrating IP. Like, because I picked it up because I was like, oh, I like the idea of the combat. I've heard a lot of good things about the characters, and I'm really into that idea. And I have to say, definitely the best representation of like geeks or nerds in any media form that I've seen. Like, oh my god, these characters are so well done, and they feel legitimate. It doesn't feel like some 40-year-old writer is trying to be hip to kids.
Right. Edgy.
Yeah, not at all. Like, you really... I know that everybody says this, but in particular, Wrench, the guy who has the crazy, like, kind of emoji mask that you see in all the commercials.
Yeah, he's one of the most expressive characters. It's
not just that, but he's one of the most empathetic characters. Like, you definitely, like, relate to him. You like him. He's fun. He doesn't feel, like, put on. He reminds you of every, like, high school friend you knew who was, like, a 4chaner, basically.
Oh, God.
But it feels realistic, not like a parody, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like what you said is basically like more or less everybody else's in the market's feelings about a lot of these games that are coming out, particularly Watch Dogs. It's like, I don't know if I want to spend my money on this because the first one just was not solid, and I just can't get enough of the gameplay. Like, it's very rare that I get like particularly sidetracked in a game and feel fulfilled after doing it, particularly in open world games.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say I need to do 5 things because I don't want to run around in circles. But this game, I've been running around in circles. I did like 8 races, made like virtually no real money, but I got a chance to like really explore the map. And I'm like, oh, there's a forest here, and oh, there's a train. It's like an old abandoned train station, and whoa.
Yeah, totally.
It's just fun,
and it's worth noting too. It's a very good looking game. Like, it's gorgeous. I really like how they took like. You can tell they really tried to hit the idea they were trying to build of each city, sort of the aesthetic they were going for. Because 2 was all browns, grays, and drab colors, and it was supposed to be this kind of dystopic Chicago with Big Brother watching and all that. Whereas this one is almost WoW-like, cartoony, kind of like, it's very overexposed looking. Everything is super bright, and there's a lot of bright colors and greens, and like logos are very Google-esque with tons of primary colors and stuff. And like, just overall, it's so much more enjoyable to look at. Like, it's definitely an uplifting like aesthetic.
The game plays off a different trend from what I've noticed is, whereas you have the dystopian like governments, dystopian not government, but like corporation just like hovering over you and taking over the system, whereas this one kind of plays to like a more realistic feel of the sense that, yeah, we'll give you convenience at the expense of your information.
Exactly, and it feels very real in that, like, while it is slightly exaggerated versions of real life, a lot of the stuff that they're campaigning against and fighting against, it's big data, which is pretty cool. Like, it feels like a somewhat reasonable struggle, even if it is kind of ridiculous to occasionally murder everyone at Google so that you can stop them from data mining people.
Yep, so it's pretty interesting.
But I really like the real life tie-ins. I like that basically your first mission is to steal, one of your first side missions is to steal the Wu-Tang album from Martin Shkreli.
Oh God, really?
Yeah, and then you put it out for free for everybody, and you burn him, you hack into his webcam and bust him, and fucking trick him into donating a ton, all the money he was gonna pay for the album to research. It's pretty great. Really, I strongly recommend that you check this game out if you can get it on a sale. I'd say this game is easy worth $40.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. My favorite mission so far is you hack Ubisoft.
Yeah, you got to get the game trailer.
Yay, sense of humor. I appreciate this.
And they actually reference real life. They're like, "This we can't ever repeat a last time with Assassin's Creed." It's great.
I was just like, "Oh my gosh."
And fun enough, we covered this on the podcast, Starkey, but you may have missed this. The game trailer that you actually steal from them is based on an actual IP that's in development. It's maybe on hiatus right now, but it's a real trailer for an upcoming Ubisoft game.
Huh.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. It's like a cowboy, or it's like a Western thing. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, but they have a history of inputting themselves in hilarious ways. You have to remember, one of the hideouts in the Division is literally a Ubisoft headquarters in New York, which I think was hilarious.
Yeah, they've always been pretty self-referent. I think there's a Ubisoft office in most Ubisoft games.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the entire line of Abstergo stuff and the Assassin's Creed.
No kidding. Jesus.
Pretty self-referential.
I forgot about that actually because I haven't played one in a while. I think when they started really leaning into the Abstergo setting, that was when I was backing out around 3. But yeah, so definitely a fantastic game. I'm curious though, Starkey, could you tell us about something you've played? Because I feel like you've been kind of left out so far.
So I've actually been playing Bloodborne recently. So I haven't had a PS4 up until very recently. I've been borrowing friend PS4s.
You borrow a PS? Can I borrow your $400 home console?
Well, so what I've been doing is so if for No Man's Sky, I borrowed my friend's PS4 and I was like, all right, I'll just give you No Man's Sky when I'm done. And they're like, free game in exchange for me not being able to play my system for a while. That's usually a pretty good deal for most people.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I got a PS4 finally, and I've been playing, just Bloodborne. It's really good because okay, so Dark Souls combat is always slow and methodical, and you can dodge out of the way, or you can shield and block attacks. Bloodborne is weird in the sense that
shooting people in the face.
Yeah, one, you can shoot people in the face.
You parry with a pistol for some reason.
Yeah, and that's kind of your parry. That's how you properly timing that is how you respond to certain attacks. And then the rest of it is just pretty much dodging, and then if you get hit, you're encouraged to follow up with a couple of attacks so that you can regain your health back.
Sure.
All these things are really good, but I actually no, they're not really good. They're amazing. Because they deepen the whole risk-reward mechanic of Dark Souls. They get you in there into the fight, and it's a lot more adrenaline heavy. Also, the way that enemy spawns work within the game, some creatures will teleport other creatures in to attack you and other stuff, so that you never feel completely safe, which is a feeling that I like. The whole Soulsborne series, you can't pause. You're just kind of in the shit.
Yeah, you can't.
Sure.
You literally cannot go to the bathroom.
Do they use the same campfire system?
Not quite. Similar in the sense that you light these little lanterns, but the bonfires or the lanterns don't really do anything in themselves. They're just a place where you can, so once you create that warp point by lighting that lantern, you can come back to that. But you don't use them for leveling up. You don't use them for.
They don't keep you from losing experience or anything.
No. So the weird thing is that Bloodborne has been far too easy for me.
Jeez, look at this guy just pours concrete into his bowl of nails every morning.
It's actually so all right, so I've actually been playing Bloodborne as a game to go to bed to. So it's my relaxation game at the end of the night. And it's really funny because I'm I play it when I'm really tired, and then I'll wake up and be oh, I got really far. Yes, all right.
Yeah, while you're half asleep. Yeah.
And one night I came home really drunk from a club, and I beat I had woken up and I'd beaten 3 bosses and made shitloads of progress.
Is this Is this like the Guitar Hero effect where like it's one of those things where it's really like your brain is actually interfering with your ability to do this properly?
I think so for me at this point, because like Dark Souls and now Bloodborne give me such like a feeling of zen and chill.
Sure.
That the more relaxed I am, the easier the game is for me.
That's hilarious.
But it's just like, so some of these boss fights I've just been breezing through, and they're ones that everybody was complaining about, like the Blood-Starved Beast or whatever. And I was like,
I know
oh
that
my god,
name.
I'm so excited.
Isn't that the one that I said? I know that name. Isn't that the one that drops the hammer that everyone likes or something? That's the name.
No, I think it unlocks it at the store. But yeah, like you don't get weapons directly from monsters anymore.
Gotcha. Full disclosure, I've played about 5 minutes of Bloodborne once when Brandon left it on, and I think I just messed up his save. So.
No, it's fine. It's just like weird because like, all right, so one of the other changes that Bloodborne makes is that healing items don't regenerate after every bonfire. Or like every time you do a thing, so you have to like kind of gather them up. And a lot of people would complain that it would get like grindy because if you encounter a tough boss fight, you run through all your healing items and you have to go back and get more.
Yeah, because people can totally validly make the complaint that is the grindy thing of these games. Are you kidding? The game is a grind. The game.
They're not grinds to me. Like this has just been a super chill like I haven't ever felt like I don't know. It's just
I'm with you, but full disclosure, not all of us can be super MLG pros at these. I'm as someone who couldn't even make it past a single batch of enemies in this like graveyard corridor area when I played with Brandon. Let me tell you, not all of us are quite so talented.
No, I get that. I realize that I have like the weirdest complaint. Bloodborne's too easy.
Yeah, you're the one guy who's like, could they put a very hard mode in?
But it's I don't know. It's been kind of a bummer because like I keep feeling like I just run through things and I'm not so like. I know that I found like the secret area that I wasn't supposed to find till like way later in the game, and I just kind of like stumbled. Apparently, you have to go like across this entire side quest, find this dude. This dude leads you to some other place. You do the thing, and then this area opens up. I just got there. I have no idea how. Like, because again, I was like really tired / maybe drunk when I was doing this.
Next time on Awesome Games Done Quick, special guest Daniel Starkey with his custom Bloodborne speed run.
I would have to. It would have to be drunk because like if I was just doing it, then like other people I'm sure can speedrun it faster. But I'm pretty sure I'm like some drunken master.
You're like Peter when he learns to play piano and drunk in Family Guy.
Because when I get into Bloodborne, when I did my best in Bloodborne, I was like you said, I was just having like a zen moment. Like, because usually when I play games, I'm like hunched over, staring directly at the screen. Like when I was really rolling through Bloodborne, like I was just leaning back, had like one leg up, controller was just like nestled between my thighs. I'm just like,
yeah.
Yeah, I genuinely
you're
think...
You're just in a zone, man. You're just in a zone. You're not even exactly thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah. I honestly think that it's ties into that Guitar Hero thing because these are very rhythmic combat games. It's about knowing the tempo of your opponent, watching till they finish their combo, and then exploiting it. So it's a lot of like waiting and counting animations.
That being said, Starkey, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite trick weapon?
So right now I'm actually having a lot of fun with the cane.
So can you guys clarify for me, just a layman, what the difference is between a weapon and a trick weapon?
So weapons are... let me do this one. I want to do this one. Can I do it?
All right.
So Dark Souls has like your various classes of weapons. So you have your sword, shield, you have like your heavy sword, things like that. Bloodborne is unique in the sense that every weapon is defined as a trick weapon, so it's kind of like a 2-in-1 kind of thing.
Honestly, I did know about the 2-in-1s. I was just curious if there were also normal weapons.
No, every weapon acquired is a trick weapon, or more accurately, or more sensibly, it has two forms.
Right, like how the Kirk hammer is like the two-handed sword, or is like a
hammer. One-handed sword, two-handed hammer. You have like the initial weapon that you get in the trailers, like that weird saw, like turns into like kind of like a butcher saw, and then you can like fold it up, and it becomes a very quick attacking tool.
Nice.
Like there's a rapier that turns into a pistol or shotgun.
What? I thought that pistols were only for parrying. Can you actually have weapon guns?
Yeah. So that's one of the ones that's a weapon and the rapier is a rapier and a spear that do that. So there's a spear that turns into a shotgun. So you can stab, shoot, and then stun again with your actual handheld weapon. And you can do the same thing with the rapier, except the rapier is just faster, but has a shorter range.
Oh, cool. So yeah, Starkey, what is your favorite so far?
So I've been sticking with the one. I've been dancing with the one that brung me. And I've been working with. There's a sword cane that turns into like this giant whip.
Oh, that's cool.
That has blades on it, and
It just looks so gentlemanly.
Is it kind of Ivy-esque, like Soul Calibur?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's just super useful because like the whip gives you good crowd control as well as range, so like you can hit people from like decently far away.
Sure.
Or if you need to do a lot more damage really quickly to one target, you can just transform it back into...
Yeah, I was going to say, because both of those, you have a slower wind-up with the whip, but your crowd control is ridiculous.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, you get pretty solid, not damage per hit, but you get a lot of DPS out of the cane mode.
Right.
I think I have to know an answer to the most important question. How are the whip sound effects?
Pretty good.
Pretty
Kinda
good.
medley.
Do you feel the like crack when you're using it?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I got excited.
Sorry, weapon sounds are a big thing for me. That sounds actually really cool.
Yeah.
Bloodborne, probably one of the best things in Dark Souls, in the Soulsborne series, is its sound design. Like, it is incredible from start to finish.
Oh, dude, if you have a surround sound system, that game is ridiculous.
I really should go back should
Yeah.
go back and try those games again. I played probably like 2 hours of no, that's not true. I played about halfway through, I want to say, the first Dark Souls. The second one I barely touched. Bloodborne I played for 5 minutes and I haven't even seen 3. But everyone seems to love these games so much, I feel kind of left out.
Yeah. That being said, I will say, Starkey, my favorite weapon is the Kirk Hammer, because I love the polarization of that weapon. Because you get so much good speed and DPS out of the sword mode, and I just love picking the right time to just whip out the hammer. And it's like literally, and the way he whips it out is just like, that thing clearly weighs a ton because he just like reaches back and like, I can tell I would never be able to do that because like my back would probably just explode. Because it's the Kirk Hammer is a really nice like kind of silver sword that you would see in like Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then the Kirk Hammer is like a sheath with a giant concrete block with like holy inscriptions on it.
That's badass. It's like a paladin's warhammer.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It is like the most oddly like tuned weapons just put together, and I just love the animation of him just like tearing that thing off his back, like he's tearing muscles, and just dropping it on somebody's face when they're stun locked. Oh my god, it is satisfying.
That is hilarious. Well, for fear of this becoming the Bloodborne podcast, any last thoughts before we move on to what else we've been playing?
So just real quick, like one of the things that I really started digging, like, and it takes a while, is that, and this is not huge spoilers, really. It's not really spoilers at all, because like okay, whatever. I'll just say it. So what happens? Okay, so in order to summon other players in Dark Souls, you have to use like humanity or embers or whatever, depending on the Souls game. In Bloodborne, it's insight, and this goes brilliantly with the game's kind of big theme, which it ends up being like this neo-Victorian sort of thing that gradually turns into this Lovecraftian nightmare.
Nice.
And so as you defeat like otherworldly beasts, you gain insight, which is like inhuman knowledge that you're not supposed to have. And it goes really, really brilliantly with the theme behind all of that, because it allows you to tap into other worlds so that you can summon players to come help you. And at the same time, depending upon where you are, you'll see shit that wouldn't have been there otherwise. You'll hear weird sound effects because you're steadily going insane. And certain things will it's essentially madness, but they call it frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
But like certain like really weird creatures, like these abomination squid thingies that like float through the air, will attack you with just like the concept of madness, and it gets worse based on how much insight you have.
That is cool. The concept of madness. Oh fuck, that's dope.
That's usually where I stop playing, because for the life of me, I cannot figure out how to deal with that. Because there's like a whole part in like one of the castles where like that's simply a thing.
You have to equip the plus madness resistance armor, don't you know?
No, so one of the ways to actually help with that is one, either burn through that resource by like summoning more players and like doing some more shit and like reducing your amount of inhuman knowledge, or there's this parasite that will suck it out of your brain and make you more stupid, but it protects you from going insane. And I'm just like, this is so fucking cool.
That is great. That's really good. I like that. That's like some like Fallout level writing. I'm a big fan of that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I have such a hard time following that game, but I've actually just watched a lot of lore videos on it at this point.
Yeah.
Because I do have a lot of trouble following it.
Yeah,
and the story is just nuts. The story's nuts. But seriously, definitely one of my favorite games. I mean, I actually did not want to buy that game because I was intimidated by it, like very much.
That's for good reason.
That's kind of where I'm at on the Dark Souls series. That and the fact that I feel like because each one is so incredibly iterative and they seem to be the latest one is always the best. Like I've been basically told, like even if you're on PC, since Dark Souls 1 and 2 are available, don't even bother with the first one. Just jump into the second one because of like a lot of the mechanics and stuff that were very kind of clunky in the very first one. So I'm like on the fence even about jumping into 2 because I'm like, there's been 2 games since then. Like how much bullshit am I going to deal with, like unrefined stuff?
Well, the nice thing about it is that they did diversify themselves with Bloodborne. In the sense that, like, it's a completely different type of game. So you could go to 3 and play Bloodborne and not feel like you're losing out. Because they're different styles of play.
Did 3 come out for PC?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. It was a glitchy mess.
Well, that's pretty typical of Souls. I'm sure at this point there's enough community patches out there.
Yeah, it's actually... I've played 3 on PC, and I thought it was pretty good. Bloodborne and Demon Souls are the only ones that are locked to Sony consoles because they had a deal worked out.
Fucking exclusives. Yeah, well, maybe they'll do an HD remaster in 10 years, and then I can finally play it on PC.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can tell you, man, like, I was on the ropes about that game. Not because of its quality, but rather just the nature of the gameplay and the difficulty. But I gotta say, that was one of the best decisions I made.
Nice. Well, hey, for fear of having the leadership of the podcast torn away from me again, I'm going to move us on to the next topic here. So, I did play some other games because we have a couple more I want to cover here before we get into the news. And a big one that I want to talk about, I've mentioned this one once before, but now I kind of have my full thoughts on it because I've put probably 30, 40 hours into it, and that is Planet Coaster. Do you guys know this game?
Yeah, I heard about it, and I thought it was like, all right, it's going to be like a thing from Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
In that vein of stuff. Is it actually pretty good? It's
excellent, and the thing is, it's literally by the original developers of Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, cool.
Yes, they're no longer with, I can't remember who owns that franchise, but they're no longer with that company anymore, and the irony is this is a total Sim City and City Skylines moment, because you probably don't know this, I know I didn't, but they just released a new Roller Coaster Tycoon, and nobody liked it. And then this came out, and it's actually really cool.
It's kind of ironic, though.
I do have some ups and downs, though, on this. I'd say the biggest caveat of this game is there are not a lot of rides. I'd say there's less rides in it than in the original Roller Coaster Tycoon without any DLC.
That was years ago.
Yeah, and I guess that's to be expected since you can do a lot more with these rides and stuff. But honestly, you can't really fill out a park unless you have some pretty wide open vistas, or you're willing to repeat stuff, or you want to do all custom roller coasters. Because I'd say there's about 30 to 40 total rides, and then probably 20 or so pre-made roller coasters. And then the rest is all up to you in the Steam Workshop. Fortunately, the Steam Workshop support is really good. I have been doing... If you guys are curious about the game, you can check out the Let's Play that I've been doing on my YouTube channel, lesser.noob. I was working on checking out the new winter update that they released that had the festive theme included for free. It's a lot of gingerbread houses and stuff like that. And so I was doing a winter-themed theme park, of course, called Winter Wonderland. And... I had some serious issues because they didn't even have all of the proper amenity types. They didn't have all the different types of food stands available. Some of the gift shop stuff wasn't available for the festive tile set, and so it was a little bit frustrating and limiting. But fortunately, the Steam Workshop had already come to my rescue, so I just went on there and I was able to get like 6 or 7 more buildings for like general sales and amenities. Yeah, it's really great. And some of them they all fit in perfectly, and some of them look even better than the originals, which is pretty cool.
I was gonna say, for some of those buildings, are there like some actual like themed buildings? Like I remember watching, for example, like City Skylines, for example, like you can actually like get like McDonald's and like some obscure family restaurants from Japan that are like real things.
No, I mean, everything is themed, like I said. Like there's the Western theme, the festive theme, the pirate theme, that kind of stuff. But no, Nothing isn't based on real life brands. The most recognizable brand in this is Chief Beef, their burger stand, and their awesome mascot. It's a lot of fun. You get to do all kinds of fun stuff. It's got all the typical, building and managing your park. You can ride your coasters, which I'll say is probably a little underdeveloped. I could use a little bit better sound effects because it doesn't feel very kinetic, but it is still very fun. All kinds of, you can check on your guests' current moods, like how much money they have, if they're hungry, thirsty, bathrooms. You can put down ATMs to increase the time people spend at the park. You can build transportation rides that are like trams and stuff to get people around the park. It's extremely customizable. Like you can do all kinds of fun stuff with angles and lifting and dragging and dropping stuff. Every ride has custom paint jobs that you get to select from color wheels and have, I think, minimum of 3, usually between 6 and 8 colors you can pick for various parts of them. And overall, it's just a lot of fun. My only beef with it is it could use a little bit more content, rides and stuff wise. I do feel like I kind of got the short end of the stick on that. That said, though, it is a fantastic tycoon game. I'd say it's the best theme park management game out there, short of Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, of course, or 3 rather. So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious, are you guys interested in this at all? I would say pick it up I wouldn't pay much more than $30 for it in its current state, but I think if you guys give it another 6 months, considering the free winter update, I think there will be some more content patched in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in it.
It's great because it really does scratch that theme park, sim theme park theme park / Roller Coaster Tycoon itch, just because all of the art design is right. You've got the characters with the slightly oversized heads, and just the whole aesthetic comes together really, really well. I highly recommend this one if you can get it on a sale, and if not, even if you're just a fan of these series, I would probably recommend picking it up, because this is definitely the kind of genre that we haven't really seen any great entries into it in quite a while.
Okay, good call.
Yeah. So, Brandon, you have one other game you want to talk about from this week?
I actually have 2, but
why don't you pick one, because we're running really long.
All right. So I'll talk about this one real quick because I'm kind of excited about it, and it's Titanfall 2, another underrated game. I remember there was a quote from somewhere where it's just like that game was put between 2 Goliaths, and it just got stomped underfoot.
Yeah, that's
Goliaths for Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
And you've played all 3.
Yeah.
So where do you think it fits in there?
In my personal taste, first of all, the quality of the game is really good. It kind of fits like this weird medium between the two, because you have, like, for example, Call of Duty's multiplayer is Call of Duty multiplayer, but there are classes that you can change, like, your core form. Like, the robot, you have, like, your wolf mode, where you, like, mault, where you run on all fours and maul targets to death.
Yeah.
Or you have an option of, like, turning into a walking, like, you're fixing into a position and, like, having machine gun arms, Mm-hmm. And then you have, like, the absolute, like, chaos that is Battlefield 1 in terms of its multiplayer. Which I want to note this. I'm talking specifically about the multiplayer here.
God, I hate the Battlefield 1 multiplayer so much. I bought that game, played all the way through the single player, and couldn't make it even an hour into the multiplayer. Just the time to death is so fast. You get sniped from a mile and a half away. You can't even see the guy who killed you.
Yeah. So that game is just like this absolute... Battlefield 1 is just absolute chaos. Time to kill is ridiculous. You're not even going to know who killed you. Like, this is a game... Battlefield 1 is a game where you have to walk in knowing everything about everything. Like, you have to know the routes, you have to know where people are going to be, so you can you're constantly playing this tug of war of, like, flanking and surprise attacks.
Definitely.
do a beeline, you're done. But you have a whole map to work with. So the one thing that's good about it is like Battlefield 1 maps are huge, and like there's so many avenues you can take, and the tool sets that you have are actually really good.
Don't forget about the destructibility.
Don't
forget the destructibility.
Yeah, and the destructibility. So not only do you have a map that's already like pretty like complex and varied, it also changes per the game. And then each match you change to a different part of the map. It's just insanity. It's perfect.
Too bad, at least for me, the core gameplay loop was such a letdown.
Yeah, this is a game where you have to walk in doing research. It's not a game you're not going to have fun in this game unless you're willing to A, put a lot of time in and die a lot, or B, like do the research before you jump in and still die marginally less a lot. Now, Titanfall kind of falls into this weird happy medium for a lot of people in the sense that A, you have a brilliant flexibility of how your characters can be defined. Like you can make your character tanky, and then like have it so he can do area denial. So like with tools like an AWOL, which is like a giant like shield wall that you can put in front of you. You can shoot through, similar to Ion, except it's like for your pilot. And then you have other things like you have like your warp or phase shift. You have your phase shift where you can literally, that's such a good retreating tool, where you can literally do disruption attacks and get out.
You could also play Campy McCamperton like me and then have a smart pistol for when you have to get pushed out of your hard point you're defending.
Exactly, yeah. And then you have your, and then also you have your hook, your grapple hook, which is pretty dope too, because that's kind of like your heavy mobility choice. And you have stem, which is awesome as well. Stem is more traditional in my sense, in the sense that you still have the same core gameplay concepts. Like you're still jumping, riding walls, using your jetpack, but you're just like constantly in sprint mode. And then you can further take advantage of those things. Like if you want to play a disruptor, you can use spaceship and then run like gun runner perks. And then you can run while, so you can shoot while sprinting, which is super good. Suddenly like submachine guns are just like baller as hell when you do that, you know, like your alternator and stuff. And then we haven't even gotten around to the Titans and then their loadouts, you know.
Definitely. Although one thing I will say, I absolutely adored Titanfall 2's multiplayer, and I don't play much online multiplayer, but the aesthetic and the gameplay from the campaign was so fun that I didn't want it to end, and shockingly, that same feel transitioned into the multiplayer. Like, the wall running and the extremity and, like, the skills. It wasn't like in Battlefield where I, like, perfected the campaign. I don't think I even died. And then I get into multiplayer and I'm just dead seconds after spawning every time.
Like,
it felt more like my skills gracefully
like
transitioned.
Multiplayer and single player is like Battlefield 1 single player is like high school and you're like relatively smart. And everybody's like, oh, you're gonna go places, you're so smart. And then you go to college and then you find out you're utterly average.
You're there with all the other smartest kids from their schools.
Yeah, and then you just get like just one shot by like the one kid who's just like straight up a genius. All your self-esteem is gone.
Now, I'm curious though. You were about to talk about the Titan variety, and I'm very curious what you think about that. Because personally, I found the Titan variety to actually be pretty terrible. They had more types of Titans, but I found that really people only used one of three.
That's interesting because which three are you talking about?
I'm gonna have to struggle to remember the names because I haven't played in a month or two. But it's the one that can do the jumping ultimate, where he like rockets up in the air and then shoots a bunch of like cluster missiles.
So that's North Star.
Yep, North Star, Ronin, and the one who has the shoulder mounted missile launchers that you lock onto them.
Tone.
Yeah, those are the three that I see people play. I never see the other ones get play.
I've noticed a little more variety.
Specifically, the one that jumps up. I forget. North Star is probably the most. North Star followed by Tone, followed by Ronin, I would say.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit more variety. I've seen, especially in Titans versus Titans, I've been seeing a lot of, because these are the Titans I actually don't play, but I see a lot of. The heavy one with the machine gun. I'm just starting to get around.
I hate that one.
Next.
Yeah.
I'm going to unlock him next because he's so easy to kill if you know what you're doing. But at the same time, like his like special attacks, like, you know, you have your charge attack on Ion.
His ultimate is so OP.
His charge attack on
it's Smart Core.
Yeah, not his core, his charge attack.
Oh,
like
okay.
A ranged like sniper shot. I've seen him take North Stars down like 2 bars.
Yeah, and then his smart core is when you activate his core, it makes him have a smart Gatling gun or smart minigun.
He's either the smart gun from Aliens or you're just like a really fat, heavy.
No, it's the smart pistol. Come on.
Yes, or you're a really fat robotic version of Soldier 76.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so I'm trying, but there is variety in how you play them because again, they have their perk systems as well, so you can actually like kind of figure out. Like a lot of people will do, not tone, but rather ion, and then they'll set him up specifically so that he'll be doing multiple like shoulder-mounted laser shots, which people either use to like snipe hard point or snipe soft points on Titans,
sure,
or just do crowd control with enemy pilots flying around.
Yeah.
So they'll like set it up so that it's a short cooldown and that you can do multiple shots at once.
I'm guessing too, I played almost exclusively in the first 2 months of release. I bet the meta has progressed quite a bit with balance patches and stuff since last time I played. So maybe there's been more both the meta has evolved and viability has expanded for some of these other ones.
Yep. But yeah, I can understand, like I definitely agree with you, certainly that the Titan like options do still seem limited because, like you said,
I feel like ironically, and this isn't necessarily a knock even, but ironically, I feel like the weakest part of Titanfall may be the actual Titan piloting because not because it's bad, but because everything else is so good. Like, the wall running is, like, perfect. Like, the gun feel is amazing. Like, I love their power-up system. Time to kill feels reasonable. You can actually get shot, get away, regenerate, and come back and kill somebody. Like, the ability loadouts are so varied and interesting. And then the Titans, to me, honestly, most of the time that I get my Titan when I'm playing, like, Amped Hardpoint and stuff, I call it down so that it will auto-attack anyone who tries to come near the point, but I don't even get in it unless I have to.
Well, yeah, that's actually a solid way that many people actually prefer to play it. So.
Well, but point being, I use Titanfall to not use my Titan.
Well, that's the beauty of the game. Titanfall is a game where you have the option.
It's like I said, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I'm saying it's ironic because the worst complaint I have about it is the Titans, but it's hardly even a complaint. It's more that the other things are just so good.
It's that Titans are the core of the game, and it's the least impressive part of it, too.
Right. The weak link does not make it a bad link, just not as strong as the other links.
It's just interesting because, like what you're doing, like, is consistent with, like, what people did in the first Titanfall. Like, a lot of people who are playing the first Titanfall game, like, barely use their Titans primarily in guard mode so that they can use it to guard hardpoints.
Yeah.
I just remember, like, it's like a really classic thing that you see in, like, the original game. So
it's nice, too, because...
It's
nice, too, because even with the improved AI core that I use, which increases their accuracy and lets them use some of their other abilities when you're not in them, I find that I really don't even use my Titan, honestly, to kill people most of the time. I just wait to hear it start shooting so I know where the person coming at me is coming from.
Yep. That's super cool, yeah. So it still has its use, but I think this game is good because there's the strength that you... Like, what you find is a strength, which you personally find as a strength that works with your meta per se, is what makes the game so good. Like,
yeah, the fact that I can play it Titanless is definitely a sign that it is a really well designed and balanced game.
Yeah. So my New Year's resolution effectively was, damn it, I'm going to play this game and I'm going to be relatively good at it. And it's a long road, guys.
You gotta play like me, Brandon. I won like 35 matches in a row just camping Amped Hardpoint.
And
I was number one on my team almost every game.
Yeah, I don't want to just win though. I want to be like, oh, I'm running and doing the jumping and all the crazy.
Fair enough.
I catch that one dude.
Fair enough.
Like it's just a resolution that I kind of made. Like, bro, get your weight up and actually like get reasonable multiplayer game in your life. Get your weight up, and it has mechs, dude. You love mechs. Come on, stop being.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop being lazy. Stop being a pansy. Get your weight up, bro.
Fair enough. But Titanfall 2, definitely solid thing to jump back into, and definitely something that should have gotten more attention. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about a lot of games from the last 3 to 5 months, just because it was such a clusterfuck this year of releases. I don't know who tried to coordinate the launch lineups to nail the windows and actually have good sales, but Titanfall, like you said, got hit really hard by that among many other AAA well-produced games.
And it's horrible too because we had like we had lower sales this year than usual, and this one that just doubled down on the damage that this game got.
Yeah, I mean Titanfall and Watch Dogs 2 have a lot in common.
Yeah, yeah. So my suggestion is honestly, if you're a competitive multiplayer, in general, like this is a good game. Like it's a very competent multiplayer game, and even if you're just interested in the story, this game has a compelling story with very interesting mechanics that will keep you interested throughout the whole campaign, maybe to such an extent that you might even delve into the multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the quality of this game is such that it hangs with the other best 2 shooters of the year, Overwatch and Doom. I really do feel that way. Maybe slightly below them, but certainly in the top 3.
Exactly. So it's innovative enough, and the one thing I will say is they did exactly what the people who really liked the game did. It's just a shame that market was niche to begin with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have time for one more game we played this week, and Starkey, we're back on you. So you got anything else you wanted to touch on?
Oh boy. Actually, yeah, no. So along with my PS4, I've been working on a lot of like older games that I was trying to catch up on, and I also like didn't really play the PS3 all that much, but like Journey, right?
Yeah,
that game?
Yeah, I know what you're talking
The
about.
one regret I have in life. The one game I didn't play.
It's the Scarf Desert game.
Yeah. So I played that a long time ago, and I really, really liked that and that game company's other game at the time.
This
Flow.
is before
Flower,
that.
Flower.
Okay, gotcha.
And I recently played Flow, and that game is like super great. It was the very first game that they made like as a big studio, but it is absolutely fantastic, and it's just like this really chill little game that like kind of iterates on like its basic concept, which is that you're like this aquatic sea creature and you just eat other aquatic sea creatures.
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember this. This was like a
game.
launch title, wasn't it? Like this was a big. I remember like this was one of their big indie, or not indie per se, but like one of their big like we're promoting non-AAA games.
Yeah, no, and it's like, I mean, it's really chill. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's just like, oh, this is a damn good little thing, man.
It's basically great. Like they took the Spore cell stage and just made it a whole game, right?
Right.
That's dope. I
remember watching this at my friend's house. My friend actually bought this game, and he's like one of the guys who only buys sports games. And I just saw him get really into this, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of a change.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's if you got the system for it, it's definitely worth checking out.
And Flow is exclusive to Sony, right? Sony platform?
Yeah. So it's there's one on the PS3 and then there's the PS4 version. So yeah.
So they do it is backwards compatible though.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, good. Yeah,
or there are 2 versions at least. That is, since nothing is backwards compatible really anymore. We'll be getting to that. Anyways, though, Flow is definitely fantastic. I remember a lot of good times back in college when we'd like come back from parties and stuff and be like, "Yo, man, let's play some Flow, yeah." So it's a really great game to play when you are not sober. Let me say,
it's like one of those games. Like I remember, I used to say this when me and my friends first started playing it, and I was like, "This is a game you play when you're edgy because, oh my god, it's like an indie game, but it's on PlayStation." Yeah,
that's a hilarious
establishment by using the establishment to play indie games.
I love that idea just because that sentence perfectly captures like a moment in time back when there were no AAA indie games really. Like that was because this was back when this was like kind of PlayStation's from the era when they were trying to respond to Xbox Live Arcade, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty great. I love that. That's just such an of a time. If you said that now, people would laugh you out of the room.
Yeah.
I just remember it because I remember like that was like the theme. I just felt like
absolutely. Well,
back when we were beautiful.
Starkey, any final thoughts on that? Otherwise, we're going to get into our break here.
No, I think that's good.
All right. So yeah, you guys, some pretty sweet games we've all been catching up on. As you can tell, we're all working on our backlogs just because it's January, the dreaded month. And so it's going to be a little bit before. We have a couple games coming out. They're finally starting to fill these dry like zones of the year, but it's still not quite there yet. So we'll have some time to catch up on backlogs, hopefully for the next week or 2 before we start seeing some of the big releases coming out. For now,
Mass Effect.
exactly. For now, though,
Andromeda.
we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with the news. Hey guys, Henry here, host of the Procedurally Generated Podcast on the Cold Omaha Podcast Network. Pets Life is a Minnesota pet care company that has created an oral care product for your cat or dog that is 100% natural, 100% safe, and 100% guaranteed to improve your pet's oral health. Save hundreds in vet bills and improve your pet's health by visiting petslife.com. That's PETZLIFE.com. Enter promo code OMAHA and save 20% on every online order, or mention Omaha for 20% off any phone order. That's PETZLIFE.com, spelled with a Z. All right, and we are back. So let's jump right into the news here, because we actually had some pretty interesting stuff this week, which is nice after not a ton of news leading up to the Switch conference. But before we get to that, I would like to talk to you guys about one of my favorite types of teensy snafu that a lot of governments seem to be finding themselves in over the last year or two, and that is the Korean military just got busted using Battlefield and Ace Combat footage in their latest promotional video for their new jet program, which is kind of amazing. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's hilarious in the sense that, like, I'm kind of happy. I mean, I'm glad that people are taking games seriously, but not this angle.
The graphics are too good for anybody over the age of like 35 to be able to tell the difference. I feel like it's just like,
yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, it's like you are a pilot. Like real pilots have to look at this before it goes out, right? Like, surely they can tell like that's not a real dash.
Like,
I
I was
think there would
actually
be some kind of check on it, yeah.
the thing that's interesting that I think about this is that like this is like been reoccurring like a lot this past year. Like, there's been at least 3 articles on like various countries doing this.
Yeah.
Hell, even North Korea, like there was a comment like North Korea did the same thing with Battlefield 1 for foot soldiers. And I'm just like, I mean, not Battlefield 1, but Battlefield Bad Company 1. I'm like, really, guys.
The funniest thing is that like it's the Korean military. Don't tell me they don't recognize video games. Like, Korea is
like,
practically the gaming capital of the world.
Yeah, like that bandwidth is ridiculous, let me tell you. But the thing that I can find it a bit concerning because, first of all, they took it. They didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
So,
well, for the record, the military didn't actually put the video together as usual. It was outsourced to like a third party company, and that's who they're trying to put the blame on. But I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
about, like, yeah, it's just weird.
The whole thing is just a total joke. I find this stuff to be endlessly amusing, though, and so I will continue to bring it to you guys' attention every time.
I think the funny thing is that it shows how little people who should know better, like, just don't.
Definitely.
Like, it's like okay. It would be like it was like that one time where Ford took that poster.
Oh, the Firewatch.
From Firewatch.
Yeah.
It's like, did you guys just not check this like at all?
They didn't. They had no idea what they were doing.
It's totally crazy to me because it's like you guys are in charge of marketing, and you, I'm sure, are some of the first people who would DMCA claim use of your footage even with fair use justifications. Yet, not respecting other people's intellectual property. It blows the mind, especially because you don't tell me governments don't have access to like the same kind of auto matching algorithms like that YouTube has. Run it through a check to make sure there's no copyrighted material there.
How is this difficult?
It cracks me up. But fortunately while they are like not taking direct responsibility, they have said that should this go to court, they will like take the legal responsibility, meaning they would pay whatever fines or whatever. And for the record, the thing I think that probably stings the most for a lot of Koreans who are reading about this is they spent $40,000 of taxpayer money producing the video.
Yeah, and the irony is like the real irony that comes down to it, I think, is that we're not talking about like some small country with like an antiquated military arsenal that can't afford to show off their weapons and stuff. Like, these guys have like they're technically at war. Like, they have a serious allotment of funds to maintain a very like high-end military, although not as big as America's. Like, it's very high-end and very specialized.
Yeah.
Like, these dudes have like 4 different classes of subs that like run on like 4 different types of things that do very specific things. It's just like they're about to buy like a bunch of F-35s, dude. Like, come on, like really?
Are you sure they're not just screenshots from the latest Call of Duty?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you could have just taken a picture of an F-35 on the ground and people would have been straight up satisfied.
That's hilarious. But yeah, and believe it or not, this isn't the only crazy copyright snafu this week. We had another kind of weird story. This is now the shoe's on the other foot, though. The developers of Prison Architect were recently contacted by the Red Cross, telling them that they needed to change their health symbol because it was a red cross on a white background. I don't know about you guys, but I had no idea that the red cross was a copyrighted symbol.
It actually goes beyond copyright, because
really
what it is it's a Geneva Convention thing where like the red cross on a white background is supposed to be an international symbol of like hope and care and everything. And so a buddy of mine, Steve Mester, actually broke that article for PC Gamer, and everybody else kind of picked up on it.
Sure. But
it is literally a violation of the Geneva Convention to have that, which is weird because I'm not sure like anybody's gonna like play a game and like, this is clearly going to offer me like the humanitarian aid that I need from this thing.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
It just seems crazy to me just because, I mean, how many games are out there that they don't enforce this on? I mean, I feel like almost every game I've ever played that's had med kits in it or anything has had a red cross on a white background. Look at, like, Halo 1. Weren't the med kits red crosses on white there? Like, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, Prison Architect has it, but honestly, I don't want to out anybody, but I'm pretty sure Planet Coaster for the first aid stations uses a red cross on a white background.
Pretty sure half of video games use use a red cross on a white background.
It just seems odd that it seems like a selective enforcement. Why pick out the indie developer? Like, isn't that like a 2-man team or something?
Yeah.
Like, that just seems, especially, it's a shame too because they had just wrapped development. I mean, fortunately they were able to recover from this by just making some tweaks and making it a little bit less direct copy. But I mean, seriously, you guys. Everything uses this symbol, and I know some stuff has kind of moved away from it a little bit recently in doing research for this story, but even then, I mean, Left 4 Dead, Halo, Planet Coaster apparently, Prison Architect, I mean, and it goes on and on and on. Like you said, pretty much anytime they need a representation of it. So it just seems crazy to me. This is weird, though. This is interesting because it's not copyright law, like you said, which... It's like a whole nother can of worms of IP things that maybe should be looked at one more time.
Right. Another thing, too, is you noted that it has very sporadic, like, not use, but it's been, like, we've seen it clearly in other games, like a red cross on a white background, and we've gotten no response whatsoever from red cross in reference to those. And then they just kind of pop up sporadically and say, nope, do not do that because that's super bad. You just violated Geneva Convention. You're a horrible person. You should die.
Yeah, we're taking you to court for war crimes for using our symbol in a video game.
Yeah, and we just kind of feel like doing it now.
Yeah, it does seem random, too, that it would come like right after the game wraps development. I mean, someone must have like whistleblown on them or something like that. But
another thing to note, too, is like it's weird because, I mean, at the same time, like, well, it's a red cross. Like, really? You copyrighted a red cross?
Or not copyright, though. Like Starkey was saying, apparently it's an international law, actually. It's protected by the Geneva Convention, so...
Yeah, it's just like, so super hyper mega copyright?
Yeah,
basically. Ultra,
so it's,
knows no borders copyright.
But it's interesting because I think, for me, it's unique in the sense that, in comparison to other articles that we've crossed with this similar instance...
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me in a similar instance because A, there's the sporadic nature, but B, we've talked about on multiple occasions, like for people who have copyrighted materials, even if it is no matter which side of the block it's on, whether it's international law or like a business copyright,
right?
In order to maintain that copyright, you have to constantly pursue people who are attempting to use it with like brutal efficiency.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I didn't even really think about that. Like theoretically, you could make the argument that Red Cross hasn't done, if it was American IP law, you could make the argument that Red Cross hasn't done enough to defend a trademark, and therefore they no longer have exclusive ownership of it.
Exactly. So it's kind of like I don't want to say I don't want to take a side. I'm kind of inside of me. I'm like,
I mean, I think everyone
really?
sides with Red Cross in the sense that we respect it as an international symbol, but at the same time, everyone sides with Prison Architect because of the unfair enforcement.
Right. It's like, all right, we all get that what you're doing is very important, Red Cross. Continue saving lives. But come on, is this really the hill you want to die on?
Exactly. I mean, fortunately, maybe the reason they go after the indie dev is because they're less likely to try and start a legal stink. But then again, I have to imagine that you can't even really brook an argument. That'd be like being like, well, but what about chemical weapons? It's like, you can't do that.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't like, because the gamer in me is like, really, bro, but then everything else of me is like,
the human being
legally,
yeah,
and international legally. I mean,
definitely
they are under obligation to do this.
It's a sticky situation, but basically, you know, it is what it is because they've already changed the game for Prison Architect. But I think all anybody is saying is it'd be nice if they made an effort to try and enforce it just a little more. Maybe send out like 5 cease and desists instead of 1. Just something.
And then make it like a universal fact. Like, don't use this. This is our copyright. Yeah, we're being dicks about it, but seriously, guys, this is kind of important.
Find some way to put it in the YouTube auto flag system, since like that should totally be possible.
Yeah, it's like it would suck, but the point would have been got around, and then this issue would most likely not happen again for an extended period of time because people will realize, okay, international law, no, this, we'll find something else, and that'll be the norm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, that is going to do it for our copyright and IP law news stories this week. However, we do have some more stuff I wanted to talk about. And one of the biggest stories this week was that Gabe Newell did a Reddit Ask Me Anything thread and had quite a bit to say about sort of the future of Valve, their current status, and some of the equipment that they may or may not be developing at the moment. And this was pretty cool. We don't really need to touch on all of it because the vast majority of the AMA was not hugely eventful, but there were some highlights that are definitely worth touching on. I'd say one of the big ones is that Gabe Newell made a strong point about saying that they're looking at investing into AI and machine learning for like the AI in video games, which I thought was a really, really cool idea. Talking about like having stuff that can learn your behaviors and stuff and then respond accordingly and respond differently for different players. I think that's a really cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I thought that was pretty dope.
I'm absolutely fascinated by that. And then on top of that, he also had kind of some weird clarifications / non-denials / allusions to new games in the Half-Life / Portal universe, which is pretty cool. He was asked about the big quote-unquote leak that came out a while ago about saying Half-Life 3 had been canceled. It was supposedly an internal Valve leak. And his response, everyone's going, oh, he like confirmed that was a fake leak. But his response, if you actually read the AMA, was actually essentially a sarcastic, oh yes, I believe everything that everyone says on the internet, which could definitely be taken as just clever, sidestepping of the issue. Is not necessarily a tacit denial of the fact that it's been canceled. But that said, they did then go on to say that they are still working on developing games in this shared universe, which does imply, I'm guessing at very least we'll be seeing another Portal, because those are relatively small games in terms of, I would think, scope and production.
That dude loves keeping us on cliffhangers, man.
He just loves not actually having to make promises because then he doesn't have to deliver. He actually went into quite a bit of detail about that, talking about sort of why the culture of Valve and how Valve is not a company that has a traditional setup where, like, the board or whatever decides on what the next project's going to be, then it's assigned to a team who is, fairly good at that kind of thing, and then they have a deadline they have to meet and a budget they have to stay within. Valve is like, what inspires you, employee? Do you feel inspired to make this type of game? And if so, can you find other like-minded Valve employees who would also be interested? And hey, you know what? If 3/4 of the way through development you decide that it's not going in a good direction, we'll just cancel it. It's whatever. And guess what? We never announced it, so no hurt feelings.
Yeah. It's
infuriating.
I wouldn't.
It's weird. It's the polar opposite of something like Blizzard, I feel like.
Right. Blizzard is very dictatorial. Yeah, I think Valve is still definitely making Half-Life 3. I think that and I do think you're right. I think like Portal is more likely to come out sooner.
Especially considering he confirmed that it is his favorite game that Valve has produced.
Right. And I'm also like really, really confident that when Half-Life 3 does come out, it's going to be because I think they're waiting for the VR tech to be there. I think
really?
Huh?
I said, really? You think the next Half-Life game, do you think it'll be first person and stuff still?
So I'm not sure. Last I heard, and this was, oh my God, I heard this a couple of years back. This is like at GDC, but like I was talking to a Valve employee. They were super drunk, and they probably shouldn't have been telling me this, but they were talking about how they had gone through a lot. It's kind of similar to the article that was published not too long ago, but they had gone through a lot of ideas for what Half-Life 3 should be, and they just couldn't make any of it work because their scope kept getting too big, and they kept wanting to do too much with it. And I think what we're going to see is, I think that they're going to be waiting until they have VR really, really, really down.
Interesting.
And kind of release it there. I'm not sure if that's still going to be first person. I have heard rumors that they were thinking of going open world.
Interesting. I mean, I kind of see it. I mean, those games were like a weird mishmash of open world and linear. Like, it was a very open linear game.
Right. You could approach most rooms from like 2 or 3 different directions.
Well, and it was a lot of really huge maps. Like giant. Right. When I think of like my least favorite part of Half-Life 2, the beach driving stuff, like that's a massive section of that game, and that is a huge map that you're going through. All the highways driving, and so you probably drive like 20 in-game miles or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know how to describe this, but I feel like you're hitting the nail you're either hitting the nail on the head or you're hitting a block of wood right next to the nail.
Right.
I feel like they're waiting for some very serious, new, like next level technological advance in the way that evolves. There's an initial evolution of how we play and interact with games.
You know what I think it's going to be?
Once that settles in, and they're just going to just eat it up.
You know what I think it's going to be? Is it's going to be a combination of the most up-to-date new touch controllers, the new HD rumble feature, and the force feedback stuff that everyone's been working on. And I think what it's going to be, I think it will be first person, just because I think that is the core of Half-Life. I don't know if it'll be as linear, but I think it's going to bring back the gravity gun, but you will have it.
Yeah, no, I could see that being the case too.
That's just a blind prediction here, but that's what I want.
I haven't heard anything about them shifting out of first person, and I would honestly think that
it would be a mistake, I think.
Huh?
I think it would be a mistake. I really do.
No, I agree. Okay, so okay. Last thought on this, and then we should probably move on.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because we'll probably stay here forever.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things I think is the issue though is that Valve has such an obsession with polish and getting everything just right.
Yeah.
And the problem, and I think where this is coming back to bite them in the butt a bit, is that
is it the lack of accountability?
Well, no. Like because that seems to work well. It's just like a very slow process, right?
Sure.
Because they do ship games, and they do ship games that are great.
Though Lord knows how many great games we haven't seen.
Right. That could have been. So I think what the actual issue has to do with the fact that VR is still like in its infancy, unfortunately.
It's a bunch of tech demos.
Yeah, like and VR has a lot of like pretty big problems, especially when you're talking about dealing with movement. The movement is so hard to get just right without causing motion sickness, without causing like any of these other negative effects. And I could totally see Valve saying, all right, well, we have this idea. We're going to like bring Half-Life into VR and it's going to be fucking awesome. And I'm sure it's great. But there's like, I have yet to see any developer really, really, really get around the movement problem.
Yeah. And see, that's why I'm thinking like room scale VR crossed with the force feedback stuff to give you that a combination of tactile, like tactile immersion, and also that immersion you get from the full movability, the ability to stand up and sit down and turn around and that kind of thing.
And I think you're dead on when it comes to Portal, because I think we'll see a Portal game much more quickly, because
fuck, Starkey, I didn't even think of that. Oh my god, Portal in VR. I'm gonna throw up so much.
No. It totally gets around the movement problem. Because
I almost throw up in Portal, in regular Portal. When you throw one on the floor and like one on the wall behind you, and you're just like building momentum.
Oh yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Or like when you put a portal on the ground and then one up on the ceiling and like you come out upside down. It's like, oh shit. Oh god, that would be a total blast/nightmare in VR.
No, it would just be a blast in every sense of the word phrase.
Yeah, no kidding, blasting all over the room. Oh, but yeah, you're right. We should move on before we get bogged down any further.
To all our viewers, don't take that the wrong way. We're talking about projectile vomit.
Yes, exactly. One last thing I want to touch on this AMA before we move on is that, speaking of Valve and Half-Life IPs, the Valve and Half-Life movies from J.J. Abrams are still in the works. So, the Half-Life and Portal movies, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a set of 2 movies. Those are still in the works, and they are still coming. Lord knows when, especially since I know JJ is kind of taking a bit of a break right now. But, that's something to maybe look forward to, ? I feel like if any game was going to make a decent transition to film, it'd be games that are basically sci-fi movies anyways. Portal less so, but Half-Life I absolutely could see being a sci-fi epic.
Yeah, I don't know why people pick like the weirdest movies. Like Assassin's Creed can be a movie. I'm like,
no kidding,
bro. Why?
The game that I like get furious because I can't skip enough cutscenes. Like, oh, too funny. But yeah, so that'll do it for Gabe's AMA. But we do have 1 or 2 more stories I wanted to touch on really quick before we get to our Switch topic. First one is Awesome Games Done Quick. They just finished their annual event where a bunch of speedrunners get together and play games for charity, and they do a massive live streaming event. They have tons of really cool stuff. Sometimes they'll have exclusive games and stuff like that. And it's really great that this year they have broken all of their previous records, raising $2.2 million in 7 days. Wow.
That's so awesome.
That is absolutely fantastic. And you know what's even crazier is that if I understand it correctly, it looks like it was like the day before the last day they broke 1 million, and then in 12 hours they made another 1.2 million.
Yeah, like we broke 1 million, then we just broke 2 million. Just breaking things today.
Exactly.
I did not think speedrunning would become this popular as like
I
a
didn't
thing.
either. I really didn't. And I'll be honest, I don't even really watch it that much. It's what it is I go on like kind of binges. Is I'll be like, I'm going to watch like 4 hours of speedrunning today, and then I won't watch any for 2-3 weeks.
Kind of like what I did like on Tuesday when I just like watched 4 hours of PewDiePie videos to figure out how he was so good.
Yeah, something like that.
Then I had to watch World of Warships videos to like recuperate.
Such odd taste. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever tuned into Awesome Games Done Quick, but it's a lot of fun. It's actually really cool. It's not just people playing through games quickly. A lot of it has to do with special rule sets that are set up. So it'll be like just fastest run, percentage completed does not matter. Or they'll do one that's you have to get 100% as fast as possible. Or like Ocarina of Time is amazing to watch because of glitches. Like there's a glitch in Ocarina of Time where you can jump through the wall in Goma's boss arena and as young Link, and it teleports you straight to Ganon's castle, and you can kill Ganon with the Kokiri sword. And it's hilarious because it like glitches the hell out.
Yeah, it's just completely friggin' ridiculous.
It's amazing though. It's incredible. It's so inspiring. I mean, it really like it blows my mind how good some of these people are. Just the perfect, especially the 2D platformer guys. Good God.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I just remember watching a couple of videos with that, and it was just insanity.
Yeah, so if you guys
like, wait, because at one point I thought it was a robot in one of the 2D platforms they were playing. Like, is that a person? Because I don't think a person has that type of reaction time.
I think that a big part of why Awesome Games Done Quick is growing so much is because of stuff like Mario Maker. To be honest, I think speedrunning is becoming a thing again. I think high scores and speedrunning type stuff are just coming back into popularity, and I'm sure that there's a whole new generation of speedrunners born out of games like Mario Maker.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which is great. But yeah, that's going to pretty much covers this story, but you guys should definitely go back and check out some of the archived videos of Awesome Games Done Quick, because seriously, there's some really cool stuff in there.
Just real quick question. How is it different than Good Games Done Quick? Is it just like different venues or
they're
like,
slightly better?
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm actually not sure. I think it is a different venue, but I am not 100% certain. I can look into that and get back to you.
All right.
Okay.
However, our next story is pretty interesting. We've been talking quite a bit about hacking, which has been a pretty big problem in multiplayer gaming, especially in the last year. A lot of servers getting DDoS'd and a lot of people unplugging and rage quitting their routers in Street Fighter and all kinds of fun stuff like that, which you can, the combination of BM, hacking, scripting, all that fun stuff. Overwatch has developed a new type of hack that I have not seen before. I know it has existed, but I think it was pretty few and far between. It is called Nuking, and it is where you do a targeted DDoS, directed denial of service attack, on just the server that your match is running on. And it just basically, the entire game just gets bogged down to utter shit. It's unplayable. And you can basically ruin the match for all other 11 people. It's pretty fucked up. Yeah. Blizzard has recently come out and said that they are attempting to find a resolution for this. They've already rolled out some anti-hack and anti-cheat methods that should address the issue. However, it is still a known problem. And interestingly, this is something that Blizzard has dealt with in the past. Specifically with StarCraft. This was apparently an issue with some major matches. Which I thought was very, very interesting. Yeah, I didn't either, especially because when I think of major matches, I think of LANs, not internet matches.
I'm just kind of intrigued as to how exactly it works.
Well, a DDoS attack is basically where you simulate millions of people all at once trying to connect to a site, so to a web address. So basically, it would be like you can break to pretty much any internet website by overflowing their bandwidth, and it just takes them down. It crashes the server. And so this is basically what they're doing, is they're slowing it down to a bog, because most servers nowadays have what's called DDoS protection. And what that does is, in order to prevent the DDoS attacks from being able to completely stifle the server, it slows down the processing somewhat so that it can try and parse things out a little more evenly.
Or it'll just start filtering incoming connections. Like if too many have too similar an IP address. I actually do cybersecurity reporting from time to time on top of my video game stuff. Mm-hmm. And DDoS attacks have gotten really, really sophisticated.
Yeah. I work in IT, and it's been frustrating for me too. We have even clients and stuff who are just locals that get their sites get DDoS'd.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because a lot of this is actually one of the biggest problems is with the video game community, because a lot of them will hit PSN or Xbox Live, and even Blizzard quite frequently.
Yeah. Hearthstone just last week.
Yeah. So the bigger attacks are kind of ridiculous because they'll do one of a couple of things. They'll either get an Internet of Things or a ton of Internet of Things devices, so routers and just random other stuff that's connected to the internet but that's not a computer, upload a really tiny virus that turns it into a massive
botnets,
and then use hundreds of thousands of these not computer computers in order to take down a bunch of stuff. Or they can use one or two computers to ping internet time servers with thousands of requests.
I've got to be honest, from a security, as a security professional, I have to say that is probably one of the most sophisticated. As much as I hate it, I'm pretty impressed by their time server strategy. I think that's pretty cool.
Because so essentially there's servers all around the world that tell computers what time it is, and they're one of the most important things because so what packets come in what order and a ton of other stuff. You need to know what time it is. It's vitally
important. It's the reason that when your clock is off, you can't load websites.
Right. If your clock is off by enough, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, it will. You'll fail authentication checks and stuff.
Right. And that's why. And so because these servers exist, they're designed to handle fuckloads of traffic because they're designed to handle all of the world's shit.
Yeah, it's crazy pants. They're massive hubs.
Right, and so if you can just get a couple of those to be like, all right, we're gonna tell this one computer what time it is tens of millions of times every second.
Yeah,
that's just like ridiculous, and it's so clever, but also like the douchiest fucking thing.
I know, right? Do. It's just like it's brutal, especially because I've read too that they're able to ping like all connected computers should they so choose, and that's even scarier.
Yeah,
because these time servers are sending these packets to millions of computers.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Ugh,
these
God.
attacks are getting frighteningly good.
Yeah, and it's only going to continue. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Companies really need to, and it's not just companies. The world needs to wake up to the reality that cybersecurity threats are not going away, and kind of up the ante a little bit. Because
they're not
like while this is a really impressive and sophisticated thing, a botnet can be run by any script kiddie.
Right, like it's
you're not getting hacked. You're getting a combination of social engineered and harassed nowadays.
Right. A better way to put it would be it is asymmetric warfare.
Yes.
Where like you need a lot of really advanced shit to stop these attacks, but pretty much anybody with even the basic knowledge
you could launch an attack from a cell phone.
Yeah, no, it's super easy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Anyways, though, I think that's enough tech jargon for you guys, but I hope you guys enjoyed. It's really nice having Starkey on to be able to bounce this stuff off of. And, yeah, we'll be keeping a monitor on this, and I'll let you guys know if any of us run into the nuking issue. Hopefully, though, they're able to clamp down on this pretty quickly, because this seems like the worst type of BM, where you're punishing your team, too. Come on, guys.
Right.
Anyways, that's going to wrap up the regular news for this week. However, as I'm sure you guys know, the biggest news story is one that we've only just barely broached, and that is that the Nintendo Switch conference happened this week, where Nintendo officially came out and unveiled a bunch of the details, specs, pricing, and launch titles for the new Nintendo Switch. And our good friend, Daniel Starkey, has some inside info.
The Switch is really good. I'm excited.
I'll be honest, you guys. I know I mentioned this earlier, but this is definitely the first Nintendo console since the GameCube that I will be seriously considering shelling out for. I received a DS as a gift, but that is and a 3DS also as a gift, but I don't have either of them anymore, and I wouldn't probably spend money on them. Maybe the 3DS nowadays with its library and current price, but the Switch has me intrigued. I'm curious, Starkey, how was it in terms of like resolution and like I doubt you can speak to sound considering you were probably at a fairly crowded event, but right. How was it to use? How was the hardware?
So the hardware's like really good. So I actually I'm going to try and rush through this real quick because there's a lot of interesting tech stuff here that's going on, but I called a lot of this stuff. So I wrote an article for Wired a few months back about how gaming laptops are actually now just as good as gaming desktops. So like especially on the NVIDIA side.
Yeah, I've seen laptops with 1080s regularly. Right.
The NVIDIA no longer makes a 1080M, for example. It is only the it's the same card, and it goes into both systems. And I actually interviewed some people from NVIDIA and some people from Razer and other laptop manufacturers as to how they were able to do this. And it's really cool. And it essentially comes down to like, we have much better means of cooling. We have way better metal processing. So our metal
it's higher purity
is purer, and so we're not using as much power to do things.
That's dope.
It's just like these tiny little things that just make a world of difference in the grand scheme of things.
And this is a branch of the Tegra processor too, right? Like this is the Shield, right. the grandchild of the NVIDIA Shield, basically.
Yeah, essentially. And so if you went down the numbers, the chip that they're using in the Switch is actually a little bit more powerful than the base Xbox One. Slightly less power. It's between
what?
The base Xbox. Yeah, I'm not even kidding.
How have I not heard? Why is this not their leading? Like, are you kidding me? Everything I've been hearing is like, we don't know if it's going to be able to run Skyrim.
Like... No. So here's the issue though. So this is what I was really fascinated with by the Switch is to figure out how they were going to do this. So the issue is more with battery life at that point.
Sure.
Because the power is there. You can put the power in a tiny ass chip and it'll do everything you need it to. But there's a couple of big challenges. One is that both the Xbox One and PS4 use standard PC hardware, and by that I'm holding air quotes up here, but you can't see it. Standard PC hardware in the sense that it uses the same architecture as like modern processors, which means that for porting them, it's super easy. It's just like really, really basic, and then you adjust some sliders, and this is why we get shitty PC ports now.
Right.
Because they actually put no effort into it.
Because it's become too easy. Yeah. There's no actual, it's just converting it over.
Right. And
it's
so
kind of
now,
sad, but yeah.
now it's so easy that like it's worse, actually.
Sure.
So the Tegra chip is a little bit different architecture. I think it's an ARM.
I believe so.
Yeah. And so that's slightly different, and that's actually slightly beneficial, because what it means is that because ARM has a more limited instruction set, that it can actually get a little bit more horsepower in terms of like raw processing ability, assuming that you're working within that instruction set. So it's less versatile, but a little bit more powerful because you have less overhead. You can do more per clock cycle than you would be able to otherwise.
Interesting.
So long story short, the Switch is plenty powerful. The issue, and I can't. Don't quote me on this, because if I recall correctly, they still haven't said what the resolution of the screen is, right?
I believe they have, actually. I think they said it's a 720p screen.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it has upscaling up to 1080.
Right, and you know, at that range, like the Switch will perform spectacularly. Again, the issue is battery life. I was hoping that you would be able to play like a top end game. I wanted to see you be able to go from New York to Los Angeles on a single charge on a plane. And it's not quite there, unfortunately. Like, you can do it on smaller games, but not Breath of the Wild, which is kind of like their big flagship thing at this point.
They said about 3 hours, I believe, on that on battery.
For Breath of the Wild.
Specifically, yes. I heard that it was up to 6 on the Switch. Breath of the Wild was about 3.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I'm curious about this. You were talking about how the big thing is the battery and trying to maintain that. And I've heard that the games often run better when they're docked than when they are not. I assume because of the battery considerations, they're probably like limiting the clock speed and stuff.
Yeah,
but
that would be my guess, yeah.
It's similar to how modern laptops do it. And so what I'm curious about is I know that we have, like, what we've read is that there's no additional architecture of any kind or anything. It's been confirmed, I believe now, that the docking station is mostly just additional cooling and charger. Yep. And what I'm curious about is, do we know if using the USB-C cable without the docking station will unlimit it?
You know, I don't know.
Because that's a big deal to me. Because for me, I can carry a charge pack around. Shit, I don't care. I'll spend $100 on a really nice one if it means I can play for a full plane ride, like you're saying. Right. But if we're talking, well, that said, I don't know if I could actually charge it fast enough. But still,
no, you should be able to, because the USB-C can deliver up to 100 watts. It's like a shitload of power.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So it's very important to me to know how important like the cooling aspects and stuff are, just because I'm very interested in getting one of these, but the main reason I want it is for the portability. I don't even own a TV. Brandon has the TV in the apartment, and so I would use his, I guess, if I got one, but rarely. I mean, for the most part, I'd rather sit in my room on my bed and play than sit on a couch, honestly.
So I'm not 100% sure, but my guess would be that. So I don't know if because Nintendo has a long history of making really dumb decisions.
Yes, they
do. I don't know what Nintendo is doing on their side, but my guess would be that there is no reason that you shouldn't be able to run it at full performance if it's plugged in via USB-C.
I hope so. I really hope that's the case, because that may be a breaking like a deal breaker for me.
Right, and that was honestly like also one of the biggest things that I was really looking for. Is that if they were going to do another proprietary port bullshit like they do with like the 3DS and all that other stuff, then I think I am so glad that Nintendo went with Type-C. Like it's not a well adopted standard yet, but it's like coming in.
No, but it's the future, yeah.
Right.
And it comes with a charger.
Which, holy shit! Like
Nintendo, did you realize you did bad?
Took you a long time to figure it out, but thank you.
Nintendo is clearly learning from some of their stuff. I am a little bit
I'm miffed about the SD format, to be honest. That like they had to choose the most obscure I mean, I'm glad we have expandability, but what is it? It's a 32-bit or 32 gig internal drive, and I heard the rumors that Breath of the Wild is 15 gigs.
Yeah, so
they're talking about putting Skyrim on there in the fall.
Yeah, what is like a 720p copy of Skyrim? Like at least 12 gigabytes, right?
No, well, so depending on if it's got the expansions, like the base Skyrim, I don't know if you remember this, it was only 6 gigs when it came out.
I'll believe that. I don't remember it only because that was a very long time ago.
Right.
That was like half a decade ago.
That was a while ago, yeah. Whereas like Fallout 4 is like, God.
My memory may be skewed by the recent release of Special Edition, which is obviously huge, and I get the HD.
Right. So some of the other things that I think are a little bit concerning, though, are like I don't like that library is really, really troubling because it's telling me that they're still not able to get third-party developers on it.
Yeah, do you mind if I just interrupt really quick and give people a quick rundown of the library that's coming out so they know what we mean?
Yeah, sure.
We're looking at, for this year, and I'm going to just do this really fast. For this year, we're looking at Skylanders, Imaginators, Breath of the Wild, the new Zelda game, a new Bomberman, 1-2 Switch, Just Dance 2017. Then March, we're looking at I'm Setsuna, Snipper Clips, Has Been Heroes, Fast RMX. And then April, we're looking at Mario Kart 8, and I think that's the spring, so I think that's enough. But to give you guys an idea, so we're looking at 9 titles there, and that includes some third-party.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people have joked on Twitter. It's like, wow, that's a $300 Zelda game. That's interesting.
Not to be that guy, but that's what I'm buying. Yeah. That's all I care about. I really think Breath of the Wild looks promising, even though I haven't touched it yet. And I've been, as someone who hasn't seriously played Zelda since Wind Waker, I think this is going to be the one that gets me back in, and I don't think I'll regret spending the money either.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more third party support though. It is a little bit disconcerting.
I agree. Where's my Monster Hunter?
Yeah, and they should be able to get like mobile developers certainly. Like, I mean, like there's
it's
there's
the Vita market, right?
Mobile games, huh?
The Vita market's gonna explode into Switch, right? Like Vita's just dead now. It's got it.
Yeah.
So this is the Vita killer, and so what it's going to do is all those Japanese, like, weird, like, friggin' sex games and all of the, like, super Japanese RPGs and stuff that normally go to Vita are going to start coming probably to Nintendo. Although I don't know how... It really depends on how Nintendo does their whole family-centric stuff, because a lot of that stuff is pretty risque.
It's true. It'll be interesting. I still have high hopes for the Switch, but... they've definitely bungled a couple of things, and I think I believe Nintendo is doing the best they honestly can, because so that Tegra chip that's at the heart of it, if I recall correctly, just the base price for that chip is like between $125 and $150, and Nintendo doesn't have other parts of their business that they can pull money from. Like it isn't like
3DS.
Microsoft. They have to
like their mobile branch. Huh? I mean, they can supplement their console development, though, with their mobile sales, right? I mean... I
think they're unifying console and mobile into one thing.
I think so, too, and I think that means that they should be able to maybe be able to consolidate that more easily, because they're mobile. I mean, they own mobile.
Right.
Sorry, go on.
Well, so I'm just saying, like, I think they're making it as cheap as they possibly could. Like, I think that if they included, like... a 500 gig internal storage thing, I think that would push it out of the price range for what most consumers would want. I think that there should be an option for it for sure. Like,
honestly, do you know what I think? I think people are being a bunch of pansies about this price. $300 as the opening price for a new console in 2017 is not unreasonable, you guys. Like, what the hell? The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One didn't launch at $300, did they? They were both at least $350, maybe even $4.
I remember this. Because I bought Xbox One day one.
And then I know what you're going to say.
Xbox One was $500.
Yeah.
PS4 was $400.
And they stopped bundling the that weird camera thing that checks your heart and shit.
Connect 2, I think it was.
$400. And now they're like, averaging $300 now? On the old gen?
Yeah, you can get an Xbox One for pretty cheap.
I think you can get the original model for like $2 now.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
But that
You
said,
surf enough websites, you'll find it super cheap, man.
that said, I mean, doesn't it seem ridiculous that people are complaining about $300 for this? I think $300 is a totally reasonable amount. Like, it's not. This is a full
Well, how much
console.
is the Wii U?
300.
300.
Yeah.
Three
Yeah,
would
so
be-
like honestly, it's
And
a
this
very
is more
reasonable
appealing than the Wii U, if you ask me. I'm willing to spend more on this than the Wii U because the Wii U may have some okay titles, but it's a total flop out of the gate of a console.
No, I completely agree. I would have liked to see a couple more things, but I think it's about as good as it could be for what they're aiming for.
A question about the hardware and stuff that
Yes.
you are quite enamored with. You said you got some hands-on with Zelda.
Yes.
Frame rates. Talk to me.
Frame rates were fine.
Really? Everything I've heard is that they were dipping noticeably throughout the demos. Like, that's what I had been reading a lot about. Although, were you docked or were you standalone?
So one, I was docked, and then two, I've also, and this could affect my perception a bit because I've been playing, like I said, I've been playing Bloodborne, and Bloodborne has some noticeable dips too. And at first, I was like, "Oh my god, this isn't 60 frames per second in a like really, really like
Henry
careful
way.
timing match thing. This is so important." And then I just realized that I stopped paying attention a while ago to the frame rate. So like, if you can get over that hump and get yourself used to it, you stop paying attention. But I have just remembered, and like, yeah. So like that maybe my like. Because Bloodborne's pretty much the only thing that I've really been playing recently, other than Flow, and so I don't know. Maybe my tolerance for it has increased. Like,
yeah,
if
I
go
can hear
back-
that. For me, it's a pretty big deal in something that's open world like Zelda, though, because I mean, like, did you play any of The Last Guardian, for example?
Yeah.
And did you notice the ridiculously bad frame drops in that game, or did you not notice that? Okay, so I'm just trying to get a gauge for how sensitive you are to frame rate.
No,
sensitivity.
I am sensitive when I notice. But like, okay, so another example, like when every now and then I'll go back and play some like old SNES games.
Sure.
And if I go back and play the original Star Fox, that thing runs at like 8 frames a second.
Yeah, it
I am
does.
not even kidding. It is like one of the very first 3D console games ever.
Vectors.
And it runs at like a couple of frames per second. And after that, I'm just like, what is this buttery smooth magic
no
in all
kidding.
this new stuff that I'm playing?
Speaking
Yeah,
of,
oh my God, yes.
speaking of frame rates, I just wanted to touch on this because if I remember right, it was on the first episode you came on that we were talking about Hyperlight Drifter, and I had a huge hissy fit about it being 30 FPS and refused to play it. And I just wanted to mention that I recently found out that they have patched that game to 60 frames, so I will definitely be checking that out soon.
Nice.
Oh snap! I've been holding off for that actually.
Yeah. So, anyways, though, it sounds like the Switch is really cool, and I'm really, I have to say, I'm really encouraged to hear that someone who actually had hands-on has such a positive impression of it, especially since I'm sure you've demoed plenty of consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I did put it in consoles, bro.
I want to touch on one more Switch-related thing before we close out the show here, and that is the interesting new Mario game we're going to be getting at the holiday season.
Oh, yeah.
Super Mario Odyssey, which people are already comparing to Sonic 06, not in terms of quality, but in terms of aesthetic. Creepily, you are, once again, cartoony Tiny Mario, but now you are in a realistically rendered real-world environment where you are like 3 feet tall and everyone around you is like 6. It's weird.
It's kind of
It
creepy,
is-
actually.
I'm excited, but it's weird.
It is definitely weird.
Like, you know what it reminds me of a little bit is, was it Where's Mario? That old game where you were Luigi and you had to you had to guess where Mario was based on like clues about locations in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego, but with Mario. And it just reminds me of that, just like the weird, creepy juxtaposition of this cartoony, upbeat Mario and then this like drab city background. Is this a new style thing or something in Japan right now? Because this is Detective Pikachu is kind of like this too.
Oh yeah, you have a point.
I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't either. It's
it
there's a
makes me
weird
uncomfortable.
Uncanny Valley thing going on, or it's the opposite of Uncanny Valley. It's like it's not even trying to fit in,
It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, no,
take
that's
it
the
easy.
thing. It's the one time. That was the one time it worked out. Like I was fine with it.
Yeah,
Remember we were having that conversation about a live-action Pokemon movie where the Pokemon are, but the Pokemon look like Pokemon from like the animated series in the games, but then you have like people.
Yeah.
Like,
And the only way to do it would be
freaks me out.
horrifyingly bloody gladiatorial matches.
Oh, there is that fan fiction one that I saw that was hilarious, where it's like Pikachu just looks like he's on drugs, he's just scarred up, and like Ash is a just drugged up mess.
I use
It's like
Hyper
great.
Potion. Pika!
Yeah, you just feel horrible because like it's actually not funny. It's just kind of sad. You're like, don't break me, man.
Yeah,
Like,
never.
this is-
The Pokemon is definitely the kind of franchise you don't want to think too hard about.
Yeah.
But
break
yeah, so Super Mario Odyssey looks quite interesting, but unfortunately, we will not be seeing it as a launch title. In fact, quite the opposite. We will be seeing it as probably one of the last games of the year this year. However, definitely something worth keeping an eye on, if only because it is weird as hell.
You never
It's-
know. It might be amazing, man.
It's probably going to be pretty good.
I'm guessing, just by 3D Mario games track records, that it will be fantastic, but very strange.
Yeah, like Mario's always been kind of weird.
Definitely.
If you think about it.
I mean, the very basic premise of like being a plumber that travels through pipes and eats magic mushrooms to grow inside. Like, I don't.
To save
Yeah.
the princess, who might or might not be real.
Exactly. Anyways, though, I think that's going to wrap up our coverage of the Switch conference, and for that matter, this week's episode. As I'm sure you guys can tell, this show has been procedurally generated. We really hope you've enjoyed listening. You can check us out on Libsyn and iTunes, where you can leave a rating or review, or you can also follow us on Twitter at PG_show. Also, we are uploading all new episodes to my YouTube channel, so if you prefer to just have a YouTube window open, you can check that out at lesser.n00b, lesser.noob on YouTube. Also, Starkey has some stuff you can check out. Tell us about it, Starkey.
I'm no longer pretentious jackass on Twitter. Instead, I'm just DC Starkey, and I write for Wired, and yeah,
Check him out.
mostly. Yeah.
Awesome.
What made you have a change of heart with your name?
Yeah, I was going to say, please tell me you're still a pretentious asshole.
Oh no, I'm still definitely for sure. I'm definitely still a pretentious jackass. I'm just not calling myself that anymore.
Good. Well, hopefully this pretentious jackass will join us again soon, because we missed having you, and it was great having you back. Anyways, though, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, game on.